Time for some SY99 fun. So this was inspired by some of the 2500 stuff I've been doing, and I thought I wanted to see what I could recreate in the SY99 architecture. We've got our filters, we've got a bunch of looping envelopes, and of course we have low frequency fixed mode operators that we can do some gurgles and gatings and stuff with. So this is a 2AFM poly sound. I like doing everything binaurally. The phrase of the day. We used to call it just stereo. And this uses two elements that are basically identical with some phase differences between the operator settings and, of course, with the pannings left and right. So I'm going to kill the effects so you can hear what this sounds like without any effects on it at all. Got a little aftertouch on the filter and some of the amplitude modulation depths from the sample and hold and such. So let's go ahead and break this down. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull up a single element. We'll go ahead and put it center here. Let's look at our algorithm. So I'm using algorithm 15 here. And the basics of the sound are the ops 1 and 2 pair right here. And then all the fun stuff comes to what we got set over here in this cluster of 4, 5, 6, all coming through operator 3. And this is where some of the various fixed frequencies are going to come in and a couple of other things. So let's just break it down piece by piece. I'm going to go to our page here. Let's kill off everything but ops 1 and 2. You can see we've got a 1 ratio, a 2 ratio, and op 2, so this is basically a square wave. So you can hear the sample and hold on the filter and the looping envelope on op 2 level to give us a little bit of motion there. So now, operator 3 is a low frequency fixed, and I've got one of our unipolar waves going here because I like to use this to do various, lack of a better word, gating stuff as opposed to LFO stuff. And if you look at our algorithm, you'll see that we have 4, 5, and 6 all running through it before we go to op 1. So if we look at the relationships we've got for the other operatories that are coming through this op, we've got a nice inharmonic 3.27 for op 4. We've got a 9.0 for number 5. And now we've got another fixed for op 6, and I'll come into that a little bit later. But let's go ahead and turn everybody on here except op 6. So you can hear the other various looped envelopes on operators 4 and 5. You'll also notice I'm using a lot of pitch sensitivity for op 3, 4, and 5. The reason why I'm doing it at op 3 is I'm using the sample and hold waveform here to modulate the pitch. So the repeating effect of all those operators coming through the fixed number 3 is going to change in frequency with that. I want the widest range of variation. That's why it's on 7. And then I've want the tuning ratios to change a little bit, so I've got 3 and 1 here. So let me show you what's going to go on here. I'm going to go ahead and kill op 2, so we can just hear 4 and 5 coming through number 3, and I'm going to vary the operator frequency of number 3 here. So we got some nice FME ring modi kind of stuff going on. Now, as I change the waveform, notice how the patterns of the repeats change. So we just go to pure sine. That's kind of neat with number 5. 13, 14, 15, and 16 being these narrow cycles are actually the more discrete gating. Anyway, let's go back to our op 3 there. So I said we're going to talk about op 6. Now, what I'm using op 6 for is, again, to randomize how all those effects come through. So if you remember the chitters and all the little filter fun stuff we had in the ARP modular, this is what I'm using op 6 for. And where a lot of those gurgles are coming from is if you look at our feedback form here, I've got operators 1 and 3 coming back to op 6. So if you look at our inputs here, this is kind of where the noises are coming from, the gurgles. So I'm going to bring up the feedback from op 1. So we get a lot more feedback, so it's kind of noisy. This is the actual accumulator from that stack of ops. We got some op 1 feedback here too. So you can see we can really noisy it up a lot. Put our op 2 back in. Alright, so now we're back down to our regular values. So let's look at our sub-LFO here, because I'm also using sample and hold in the sub-LFO. So for those of you that don't know the SY series architecture for the 77 and for the 99, they have a second LFO. Now this is a monophonic LFO, so it's shared amongst all the voices. And it's got your typical types of waves. You got your tri, your sawdown, your square, your sample and hold. And it can be set to have a delay before it comes in. It can be set to a decay mode, which is the amount of time for which to be active and disappear. And this has a whole different speed range than the regular LFO. And what's interesting is that if you use sample and hold at a speed of 127, it actually is a sort of a noise source. So I have just a little bit of pitch mod depth here, and let me turn it off. I'm going to start bringing it in. So you can see it can get pretty extreme. So I'm just using a taste of it. Anyway, so by changing the various frequencies that we have for these fixed values here, we can kind of change the way it gurgles. And of course, the way I have the looped envelopes set up, you can also change that around. So let's just make a little bit of change here. Let's go 172 here. Let's slow this one down really low. It's actually kind of cool. A little bit nicer than the original. So let's transfer these over to our other element here. And we have our 254. And then number 3, we had 172. ties. So now we'll go back to our stereo patch. We'll put this guy back to his original right 6. We'll turn on our other element. And now you can hear we've still got a lot of ambience in this built in, and that's a lot to do with the way that the panning is going on, the fact that there's some other phase shifts between the two. I'll show you that here. Sorry. So in our operator page, 235, you're going to see that I've basically quarter shifted the phase of all our main pitched operators here. You'll see I got phases of 32, offset between the two elements here, again here, again here, and again here. So that's giving us some phase offsets, not just the straight panning. So one of the things nice about being a phase modulation synthesizer is that you can actually play with this stuff in some kind of cool ways. So we'll put the reverb back on and go back.